Welcome to Connected Technologies. Today we're going to be talking about voice over IP, also known as VoIP, and I'm going to be showcasing a couple of different physical phones, but also as well an IP phone that is very promising and it shows great potential. Now, I want to give a little bit of a background of VoIP. What is VoIP exactly? It stands for voice over IP, and essentially is the ability to make phone calls, or not just even phone calls, but any kind of voice call through the internet. And essentially what happens is you use an IP phone like this, or a smartphone, or even like Skype or Microsoft Teams. And if you think about it, apps like WhatsApp, it's technically considered voice over IP because it uses your broadband provider, which could be T-Mobile, Verizon, whoever it is, to transmit that call through WhatsApp or Skype or Microsoft Teams. In this case, I'm going to be using voice over IP for IP phones for offices. I'm going to be talking about that. But the idea is that it compacts the voice, right? When you're making the call, the phone itself has the technology to compress the voice into packets of data, and it transmits that data over the internet. And then the receiving call, let's say I'm making a call from my cell phone on the IP or on a VoIP app like the Neftis VoIP app or WhatsApp or Skype or Teams, packets up that data in packets, transmits it through the internet, and then the receiving caller receives the call, answers the call. The receiving device has to be able to decompress those packets and then and transmit them back to voice, right back to sound, so that the receiver can hear that sound coming out and back and forth. Right now, voice over IP technology has actually been around since the 70s, since before the internet was even invented. And what happened was back then they were trying to use it. Mostly government agencies were using voice over IP through what's called back then, before we even had internet, we had what was called ARPANET. And ARPANET was kind of like the first generation of internet, right? It was, again, mainly used by government agencies, but it was a way of being able to transmit data from one building to another, even across the country, that type of stuff. But it was kind of the first generation of internet, and this was back in 1973 or something like that. And then through the 80s, it evolved. And actually, ARPANET was in the 50s because of the Cold War and stuff like that. But the internet came around in 1995, and that's actually when the very first voice over IP call was made through the Telnet, which is the phone companies, right? Like AT&T back then, Pac-Bell. They were providing what was called copper lines. The physical copper cables that they built throughout the country, and then the calls were being transmitted through copper lines. And then a company back in called Vocatel back in 1995, they created the very first voice over IP call to be transmitted through the actual Telnet network, which is the phone system, right? Like the phone companies were Pac-Bell back then. Now we know as AT&T. But so that's the history of it. It started back in 1995, but because the internet was so new, voice quality was not great. There was a huge delay, right? I would say, hello, and I'm speaking to, let's say, Robert. Hey, Robert, this is Juan. And then I would literally have to wait 4 or 5 seconds for them to hear it. And then they would respond, hey, Juan, how's it going? So there was a lot of latency. And voice over IP depends on your internet provider's latency, right? The speed that it takes from receiving their command to sending it to the server, and then the server sending back that request. That's your internet's latency. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about 4 different reasons why voice over IP in 2025 is still very promising, especially for small businesses that want to look big, right? And voice over IP definitely does that for you. So that's a little bit of history. Now, it didn't really take off till maybe the mid-2000s, around 2004, 2005. And it was mostly because internet quality was still not that great. The internet providers were still offering actually dial-up, believe it or not, where you would hook up a 56K modem to your computer, use the copper lines using dial tone to dial into the internet, and then connect the phone like this to start making calls through the internet. It was not great quality until they started coming out with dedicated internet, such as T1s, even DSL, and what we have today, which is coax, cable, business fiber, and even 5G wireless internet. It's much more durable, the internet, so allowing you to make quality calls. But when it really took off in 2004, 2005, it was when it was really revolutionary for small businesses. What do I mean by that? So back in the 90s, there used to be called what's digital phone system. So here's a Panasonic digital phone. It would connect to an outlet somewhere on the wall, but then businesses would have to install in a big closet somewhere in their building, a big room with a bunch of cables, and then these phones would be connected through the wires in the walls back to that closet. And these phones were IP phones back then, and they were assigned extensions and everything like that. But those what were called on-premise PBX phone systems. So back in the 90s, only big companies could afford it, because you're talking about a $20,000, maybe even $30,000 phone system setup that definitely small businesses couldn't afford, and they needed a big closet to be able to get all that installed. And that's just the setup, right? You still needed maintenance. So you needed someone to be able to come in and maintain the phone system for you when there was an issue, call quality, the phone is not making calls, whatever it is, you needed technicians to come in and troubleshoot and then fix the problem. And even though you paid $20,000, $30,000 to set it up, the ongoing maintenance was an additional cost. So you're talking about $20,000, $30,000 just to set up. And then on top of that, maybe a couple thousand, maybe $2,000 more annually just to maintain it. So definitely small businesses couldn't afford it. And then came cloud hosting. So the idea was this big closet full of cabling, we can virtualize it and create a software behind it and then put it in the cloud. So all those features that you would get from a $20,000, $30,000 system is now available in the cloud. And all you need is an IP phone. It has an Ethernet connection. You plug it into the wall and it works. Now, what is a phone system, right? A phone system essentially is set up where you have a phone number, right? I'm sure all of you guys have T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, and you get your area code, which is the area where that number is assigned to. Let's say 310 is Los Angeles. So 310 is assigned to Los Angeles. Think about your phone number as an address to your physical phone, right? Like to your cell phone or even an IP phone. So the area code is kind of the first part of the address. And then the next three digits, at least here in the US, is the NPN, which is kind of like the block. So Los Angeles is huge, right? It's a huge city with millions and millions of people. So there's streets and then there's blocks of streets and stuff like that. So think of the NPN of that number is assigned to a specific block within Los Angeles. And then the last four numbers of your phone number is actually your address. Those are your phone number's address. Those four digits will never be the same within the same area code and the same NPN. Now, have you guys ever seen like movies, for example, from like the 30s, like when the phone systems first came out, and they would have these big rooms with a bunch of girls in there connecting cables to a wall, right? And they're connecting, they're receiving calls from, someone saying, hey, can you connect me to this facility in New York, right? And someone from Chicago calls in, a girl answers like, yeah, where can I connect you? Oh, I'm looking to be connected to XYZ location in New York. So that girl would then take that cable, connect it to a wall somewhere, right? So that's what's called a switch. That's a phone switch. So the idea is that phone switch physically at the time, physical people had to take cables, connect them to the different switches. So they're connecting you from Chicago to New York, but they're connecting you in a way where they're going to connect you to the area code. And then once that area code receives the call, they take another cable, connect it to the NPN, and then the NPN receives the call, they connect it out to your physical address. So it's a whole process. But think of all of that virtualized. With Voice over IP, we created a software that does that whole process completely automated through what's called the virtual switch. Now here at Neftis, we have a cloud-hosted PBX that we have our own switch that does all of that in milliseconds, right? So you make a phone call from this phone, and you're calling somewhere in the United States, it's going to do all of that, route the call to where you're going in milliseconds, and it's cloud hosted. Now, like I said, we're going to go over 4 reasons why voice over IP today in 2025 is still very promising, and it's going to revolutionize small businesses. Cost efficiency is definitely huge within the voice over IP industry. I mean, think about it this way. Voice over IP, at least here at Neftis, we provide about 50 different enterprise features, right? And I'm talking about enterprise, where, you know, in the early 2000s and in the 90s, with the digital phone system, right, with one of these, you would get, you know, music on hold, you would get call transfer, you would get extensions, eFax. Believe it or not, eFax did exist in the 90s. You know, conference rooms, contact centers, call centers, all of these features are technically considered enterprise features. And here at Neftis, we have about 50 plus. We have, I think we have now like 53 different enterprise features, including what I just said. The most popular ones, you know, caller ID, true caller ID, music on hold, voicemail to email, voicemail transcribing, things like that. A couple of different things. Actually, today we're integrating AI as well. But what you got to understand is, because it's cloud hosted, what we did here at Neftis is we took that technology and said, hey, how can we make it affordable for small business? So we took it, we created a software behind it, put it in the cloud, and then the customer, all they have to do is get the IP phone. Now, these IP phones cost anywhere between, you know, $60 to maybe $120 each. So if you do the math, let's say you're a 5-person office, doctor's office, right? And you have your secretary, your receptionist, and then the doctor's office. And there's 5 physical phones like this. Now, this specific phone, this is a Polycom E-Series, Edge E-Series phone. This is a very nice, let me see, what model is this? This is the Polycom Edge E320. Okay, cool. So this is the E320. It has the DSS key. So these keys can be programmed to do it, you know, direct dialing, call parking, whatever you want. These are the extension keys. So these are to make outbound calls. And then obviously your keypad. It is a full color display. It is Android based, so it has, like, you know, you can have different pages for different features. But for example, this is the Polycom Edge E320 phone. This phone costs about $90, right? If you wanted to go and buy one of these. So, but do the math. Let's say you're five office person with this phone, very nice phone. You're going to be under $500, right? You're going to be $450 for 5 of these, right? Versus spending $20,000-$30,000, right, for an on-premise PBX. And then here's the other cost saving of it. Yes, it's a $90 phone, and if you're a 20 phone office, yes, then you're going to spend a couple thousand, but it's still less than spending $20,000-$30,000. The other cost saving on top of that is, even if you spend $20,000-$30,000 on the phone, on the on-premise PBX with all the, you know, with the closet full of wires, you're still going to need a local provider, right? You're still going to need to call AT&T or Spectrum or Verizon, whoever it is that provides the local phone lines. And then you're going to need those phone lines to connect to the on-premise PBX phone system, so that you could still make phone calls from a digital PBX like the Panasonics or the NECs or anything like that. So now, not only did you just spend $20,000-$30,000 on the on-premise PBX, you're still going to have to pay the monthly cost of the phone lines themselves. And if you're a five-person office, you're going to need at least 5 phone lines and then a fax. So you're going to technically need 6 lines, right? So you're going to need the 5 lines. Maybe you can get away with 4 lines and then the fax. So 5 lines. AT&T right now is $39.99 per line. So you're going to spend $40 times 5 lines. That's what what is that? 4 times 5 is $200, right? So you're going to spend $200 a month on the physical phone lines from AT&T. That's on top of the $20,000-$30,000 phone system. And then on top, maintenance, right? You're going to need someone to come and repair it every now and then. It might work for the first year with no problems, no glitches, but unfortunately, everything does wear off, right? Even these nice phones, eventually they start to have issues. So when your on-premise phone system starts to have issues, you're going to need to call a technician that specializes on those on-premise phone systems to come and repair or provide maintenance on the system. you're looking at maybe a couple $1,000s more annually just to maintain it. Versus if you go with the hosted VoIP provider like Neftis, where you just pay the $90 for the phone. And then, by the way, these Polycom Edge phones have 3-year warranty. So anything happens to them within those 3 years, they replace them, no questions asked. But that's the only thing you would have upfront cost. The cool part is with Neftis, we provide the phone service as well, like the monthly phone lines. They are voice over IP lines versus analog lines. So you won't need to get AT&T or Spectrum, Frontier, whoever the local phone service provider is. You will not need to get their phone lines. So you will not have that expense. The monthly service fee for Neftis phone voice over IP solution includes that service. It includes eFax and includes all the 50 plus features without having to spend the $20,000, $30,000 up front, plus the annual maintenance on the physical system, plus the monthly fee for the actual phone lines, where AT&T, for example, is $39.99. Neftis, for the phone service itself with the 50 plus features, is only $24.99. So definitely huge cost saving upfront. And I know from time to time, Neftis does provide some promos on the physical phone. So, check out their website. They might have some kind of promo on the physical phones. One of the reasons we're going to talk about why voice over IP today is a great solution is the scalability, right? So let's say you're starting your business brand new, just you by yourself. You don't have any employees. You can start with the mobile app, with the Neftis mobile app, make and receive calls with that app. And then you're answering your own calls. It has music on hold. It has the automated attendant, right? Like, thank you for calling ABC Construction. If you know your party's extension down and out, you could be a one-person business, right? It's just you by yourself, and then your automated attendant answers. So it looks like you're a big business, but it's just you by yourself. But let's say your business does really, really well, right? Like, and you're doing really well, and you need to hire a secretary, and you want your secretary to answer the calls moving forward. Then you just add that user. You can add a user to another mobile app user, or get a physical phone like this for your secretary, and then your secretary can answer, make calls from this physical phone, transfer the calls from this physical phone to the mobile app, the Neftis mobile app. From the Neftis mobile app, be able to transfer the calls back to the physical phone. And then let's say a couple years from now, you hire another person, a project manager, whatever it is. And before you know, you have 10 employees. It's as easy as adding a user to the system. I've seen people start their business with 1, 2, 3 employees. Within 4 or 5 years, they have 60, 70, 80 employees, and it's as easy as adding that user to the system. And each user has a dedicated extension. So each user will have, and you can start with 101, 102, whatever it is. And before you know it, you have 160 users or 50 users, however many it is. But scalability is huge versus having an on-premise PBX like this. When you order an on-premise PBX system, that's why the price varies, right, between 20 and 30,000. Because if you get the on-premise PBX system for 20,000, it might only have for 10 users. If your company grows and you already maxed out at those 10 users and you need to go from 10 users to 20 users, they're going to come in and charge you another $10,000 to add those additional 10 users, right? So scalability is huge with IP phones. You just pay the cost of the phones, and then the monthly fee for the service, which you would pay anyways even if you had an on-premise PBX, you're going to pay AT&T or Spectrum. But then with voice over IP, scalability and cost is huge. So if any of you are interested, let me give you, I'm going to provide an information on how you can get Neftis trial. We're going to be offering a 30-day trial on the Neftis app. You can download it on your phone, be up and running with a temporary number. And now, if you do have a number you want to port in, we can even work something out where you can forward the calls temporarily from your current provider to the Neftis app. But you'll be able to get all the 50 plus business features completely free for 30-day trial. And then after the 30 days, we can even sit down with one of our account managers and come up with a custom pricing if you're willing to, do like an annual contract or anything like that. But our month-to-month pricing is $24.99. And if you're interested, go to the Neftis.com website. We have a chat widget, right? So you go to the chat widget and you type in VoIP promo. And that's how we know that you watched the entire video to get that 30-day trial. So go to neftis.com, chat with our chat widget, and type in VoIP promo to get that 30-day trial. Other than that, guys, thank you guys for watching Connectech Technologies powered by Neftis, where we bring small business tech to help small businesses integrate technology in a modern age without having to break the bank. We provide resources where you can get this type of technology at the lowest cost possible. And if you want more information, go to our website. Feel free to reach out to us. Thank you, guys.